For months, we've been receiving shocking video from a part of Myanmar that's closed to the outside world. The Burmese government is trying to keep what its soldiers are doing to an unwanted Muslim minority a secret. So we've come across the border to Bangladesh. 75,000 Rohingya Muslims have fled here in the last few months. This is Mohammed. He says he left his village in November when it was attacked by Burmese soldiers. But his elderly father was too frail to flee. For days, Mohammed heard nothing. Then, when the army withdrew, he returned to a gruesome scene. This extremely distressing footage is from Mohammed's village. He tells me he believes his dad was shot and body burnt.
আমার পরিবারের সাথে কে বলে না এই কথাটা আজকে বলছি আমার পরিবারকে বললাম অন্য পাড়াত আছে এইটা বললাম আজকে বলছি আমার বাবা মৃত্যু হয়েছে
Mohammed's story is supported by video we've verified of helicopters overhead, burning homes and large numbers of burnt bodies. Rape has been alleged on a massive scale. Jamalida Begum became famous in Myanmar when she bravely spoke out about the abuse of Rohingya women to a team of government investigators. Months later, we found Jamalida in Bangladesh, and she told us what the soldiers had done to her.
Endila body so juta bodoli gadi dia bodies gadi dia banguri bori so juta ranguri than mari ore tara siri phelai hari jatka mari anguri phelai ore ekjonor pore ekjone dujone rape goribla ami arekjon ar gammadi utte.
Jamalida tells us she had to flee Myanmar after soldiers printed out her picture and came looking for her. The sheer scale of what the Rohingya refugees are alleging, with hundreds thought to have been killed and many more abused, has shocked this United Nations envoy.
I would say crimes against humanity. Definite crimes against humanity.
How much responsibility should Myanmar's leader, Aung San Suu Kyi, bear for this?
At the end of the day, it is the government, the civilian government, that has to answer and respond to these massive cases of horrific torture and very inhumane crimes they have committed against their own people.
Myanmar's former democracy icon refused all our interview requests.
Ms. Suu Kyi, the United Nations has accused this country of committing crimes against humanity. Do you have any response to that?
Undeterred, we spoke to one of Ms. Suu Kyi's closest aides.
We don't believe that it's crime against humanity. It is an international affair. It's not an international affair.
And does she take on board what people are saying when they say that it doesn't seem like she cares about the human rights of the Rohingya, for example?
Again, your question becomes Rohingya. So please change the subject.
But hundreds of them have been killed. That's why we're raising the issue.
Not hundreds. It's exaggeration.
It's now almost a year since Aung San Suu Kyi took office. So far, the price of power has been silence on the principles and values once synonymous with her name.
Well, that's right. She was quite available to journalists when she was under house arrest and indeed in the run-up to the election in 2015. But since then, very difficult to get an interview with her. She hasn't spoken to any journalists in Myanmar since then. She doesn't give press conferences. Basically, she doesn't like being asked the difficult questions, and the Rohingya issue is a very difficult question for her. And you know, if she can avoid getting in, you know, having those moments with journalists, she does.
Why is it a difficult question for a journalist? She can't be a president, but she's de facto leader. She has power. Why can't she talk about it?
Well, what we've got to understand about this is that Aung San Suu Kyi is the elected leader, effectively, but she's not in control of the military. The constitution of Myanmar means that the army still is, in effect, its own entity. Even if Aung San Suu Kyi asked them to stop their activities in Rakhine State. There's no guarantee that they would. So her power in that area is very limited. Where the disappointment has been, I think among many people, is that she does have a certain amount of political capital. She won a huge majority in the 2015 election, a sweeping mandate from the people. She could have deployed some of that mandate by publicly speaking about difficult issues like the Rohingya or calling on the security forces to rein themselves back a little bit. She hasn't done so. If we look at what she's done in relation to the Rohingya, well, she's never been to the area where this conflict is taking place. She's never even been to a Rohingya camp. What message is that sending both to the rest of the Burmese population and to the Rohingya? If you were a Rohingya, you wouldn't really think that she cared that much about you.
Right. So, Aung San Suu Kyi's hands are tied, it may seem. She can't do anything, she can't say anything, or she's certainly not willing to. The UN official that you spoke to described the treatment of the Rohingya Muslim minority as a crime against humanity. That's been played down, hasn't it, by the Myanmar authorities. So who can help them?
Well, the next step, as far as the United Nations is concerned, is on Monday, Yanghee Lee, who was in that report there, is going to go to the UN's Human Rights Council. She is going to ask them to set up a commission of inquiry. That's quite a big deal when you're talking about investigations. There's one about Syria at the moment, for example. But rather shockingly, I don't think many people will be disappointed in this, Western countries are unlikely to back that bid for a commission of inquiry. The draft resolution that I've seen suggests it'll be a much watered-down investigation. And the reason for that is basically because they don't want to go against Aung San Suu Kyi. They don't want to be seen to be undermining her.